Hey, welcome back to my channel. My voice sounds very terrible, so I'm just getting over a sinus issue, so forgive me on that one. And this sneezing. My voice sounds terrible. It's fine. We're gonna just go through it. It's allergy season. For me, it's 24/7 pretty much. So this is what we're working with today. Today, I wanted to talk about houseplants that I would recommend to people who are getting into houseplants for the first time. And so I'm sure that there are about 100 other videos out here that are going to list the same plants that I am listing currently. But I figured let's do it anyways, because maybe one of them will be different. For sure, my voice will be different. So if that's not entertaining enough to watch this, then I don't know what is. So plant number one, and I couldn't recommend this enough to, even if you are a full-time houseplant collector, whatever you want to call, yourself. This is the neon philodendron. And if you have seen any of my past videos, you will know that this is one of my number one favorite plants. So this is absolutely beautiful. I love my voice right now. It's so bad. I love the orange and peachy stems, and then the leaves, the new leaves. Maybe I shouldn't even film this video, but it's okay. I promise, I'm feeling 100% better. It's my voice. The leaves that it pushes out, the new leaves and the growth, is like a peachy color. And it's so beautiful. It's so easy to care for. It doesn't mind lower light situations. The soil can dry completely out before it needs to be watered, and we'll show you when it needs to be watered, which is very helpful. These are pretty sturdy little leaves, but you will notice that the whole plant is just sad. That means it needs water. And so that's a super helpful hint for those beginner plant people. That your plants tell you when it needs to be watered, and this is one of them. So again, a neon philodendron. I have seen these at Lowe's. This is where I got this one from, because in previous years they were harder to come by. Even the Heartleaf, the regular Heartleaf philodendron, which I do have that, this regular guy, this was harder to find in previous years, but I have seen these around Lowe's a lot this year. And so this is another one. It's the same plant, just different variety. So got the straight green and then the neon, but I specifically love the neon. I just think the leaves are beautiful. It's so bright and fun, and again, it grows like crazy, and it's just a beautiful plant to look at. This guy is still beautiful, just a solid dark green. So if you are beginning to collect plants and you just want solid green plants, this is a great little guy for you. Again, same care. It will tell you when it needs to be watered by its leaves drooping down and becoming curled. That's also a sign, is they curl up, but doesn't mind lower light. Now, I will say, if you do keep it in lower light situations with any plant, this is with any plant, the leaves are not going to become as beautiful and big as they could be. This is one of the original mother leaves right here, and it's really large leaf. Now, I have set it in a north-facing window with basically no light, and it's producing these small little leaves. I did just add a grow light to my room in there where it is, and so hopefully it gets back to these nice big leaves. But just know that if you get a plant and it has these large leaves and it starts pushing out these tiny leaves, this means that it needs more light, and it is going to be okay. It clearly is still growing and it's fine, but it's just not going to be as large of a leaf as it could be. Another variety of this heartleaf philodendron is the Brazil or Rio, which the Brazil I have seen so much more in big box stores. The Rios are still a little hard to come by. I had a Brazil at one point and I sold it during my move, but I did get a Rio, and all of the difference between these plants is the coloring, the variegation of them. And so the Rio has this cream and silver splash that you can see in here if you were to really look. So this is a silvery color in real life, and it's got this white and cream striping, but that is the Rio version of these these guys. They're just super easy, beautiful plants, come in a ton of varieties and colorings. So I think that this is my #1 plant recommendation for anyone who is starting out. My second recommendation for beginner plant collectors is a pothos, which everyone is going to say this because they are like the tried and true, easiest to care for houseplant that you could possibly own. If anyone has any arguments with that, I know I'm not wrong or the only one that thinks that based on all the other videos out there on the internet about this plant. This is, again, low light tolerant plant. Water once it's completely dry. It will tell you when it needs watered because all of these leaves will drop and curl. It's just a prolific grower, easy to care for, doesn't mind to be neglected, comes back instantly from watering. Like, you'll look at this plant and it'll be totally like this, and I'm like, oh shoot, I need to water that. But within like an hour, it's right back to its perky self. So it is a great plant. They come in many varieties. This is the golden pothos. And then I have this Manjula pothos, which is just a different variety. Again, the coloring on it is different, but they're the same plant. Or a small little Enjoy, which I love these guys. I honestly would choose an Enjoy pothos over a golden pothos or a Manjula pothos over either one of these. But this little Enjoy is so cute. And again, I could not find these. They were very difficult to find a few years ago. But this year, I have walked into Lowe's and Home Depot, and every single time I see these guys for $10 in a large bushy pot. And so I think that that is a great deal because these are really beautiful plants, easy to care for. Again, water once the soil is completely dry. They don't mind the lower light situations. And so this is just a small propagation off of my mother plant, but I think that their leaves are beautiful. The variegation on them is a stable variegation, which if you are a beginner plant collector, you're not going to know what that means, but there are such plants as stable variegations and unstable variegations, meaning that coloring will not always be there. But this is a stable variegation. These three here, I could totally recommend for a beginner plant person. They are, again, easy to care for, tried and true. I think every plant owner has one of these, and you can't go wrong. Another beginner plant that I would recommend to someone is Syngonium. Now, this is a higher-end Syngonium. This is a Syngonium albo, but they are all over Lowe's and Home Depot and Walmart. I've seen them, and I've purchased some of them. So they come in a variety of colors and variegations. Main ones that I see at Lowe's and Home Depot are reds or burgundies, and then just like the basic greens. I don't know all of their like common names or anything, but and then pink Syngoniums. They have like these pretty pink Syngoniums. And so again, they're very easy to care for. They don't mind lower light situations. You can water them once they're completely dry, and they trail. So just like the pothos up there and the philodendron, these guys trail, which is super fun because their leaf shape is very unique. And when they get larger, they become even more like split, like this guy is. They're very beautiful plants. Again, unique foliage, trail. You can propagate them easily, which we won't even talk about that. But again, we'll tell you when they need to be watered by their leaves drooping. And so very easy plants. Now, I don't have any other ones in my collection currently because I kind of dwindled them out. I have, again, kind of solidified what I want to collect. And so Syngonium were kind of one of the ones that fell to the wayside, but I did own quite a few different varieties, and I really do love the plants. They are very beautiful, but this is currently the only one left in my collection. So those were plants that vined or trailed. I didn't specify that, but philodendron, pothos, and Syngonium all will trail or vine and climb up things. So if you have a space for that you want to climb or trail and become very full and bushy, those are great plants to have. Say you don't want a trailing plant and you don't want a climbing plant, what would you get? So I would recommend the snake plant. Snake plants, again, are low light tolerant, very easy to care for. Water once the soil is completely dry. Honestly, I have had these guys not in soil and just in sphagnum moss or really nothing. Yeah. and they grow still. They're more like a cacti to me. So they store the water in their leaves. They're very hardy plants. And again, just easy to grow, and they're upright growers. So this is the moonshine snake plant, which is more of an uncommon snake plant. And the only reason that I have it, because I don't have any other snake plants in my collection. I used to, again, dwindled them out. But this guy is very pretty. It's a moonshine Sansevieria, Dracaena. That's what their like genus name is. It's a Dracaena now, but these guys are extremely easy to care for. Water once the soil is dry, and they will also tell you when they need water. You can see like this ribbing here. They will become very pruny and like look like skin, basically. So those will get even more defined and like shriveled, and you will know that the plant needs water. So I have mine sitting in a south-facing window. They would love direct light in reality, but I have had mine sitting in an east-facing window before with a lower light situation, and they have done just fine. Actually, I had a really large one that I took from my work when 2020 hit. You know, everybody moved out, moved into home offices, and the plant had been sitting in our office without anybody's care. And so I decided to take it home because they were going to throw it away. It looked dilapidated and terrible, but it had been sitting in an east-facing window for months without any care, any water, and it was not in soil. It was literally just in sphagnum moss or Spanish moss, honestly, I think, and styrofoam. It was a plant that they had had for years at the church, and they just kind of moved it around. It bloomed all the time for us, and it was really cool because snake plants will flower, just like a majority of your house plants, believe it or not. And so they will flower. The flower that this one put off was very perfumey. Like, you knew when it was blooming because it filled the entire room. It bloomed several times, and it was beautiful, and it's just kind of a fun reward for a plant to bloom in your care, which this wasn't even in anyone's care. To see that bloom, it really just confirmed that these don't mind to be neglected and are very easy to care for plants and kind of just go with the flow. They are upright. They will grow really large and tall. And you can see this is new growth here coming down from the bottom mother plant. So these are pups. So you could separate these and create a new plant, and just very easy to care for plants. Another upright plant, if you are not looking into a trailing plant or anything like that, that I would suggest, this is the peace lily, and this is a domino peace lily, so it is variegated. But the peace lilies in general are extremely easy to care for plants. Don't mind lower light situations, and they can dry completely out. Now these are like a fainting goat. If you see the plant and it's like completely drooping, it's just all the way over. Like, I have seen this guy many times. That means it needs water. And once I water it, about an hour later, it's completely perked back up and totally okay. And so that's why I love this plant. It has not given me any grief. It grows constantly. Like, it has a new growth point right here. Now, this is one of the more interesting, I think, peace lilies, because the leaves are this variegation, like have this variegation on them, but they're also extremely textured and like bumpy and rigid. And so that's really interesting. Now, most peace lilies that you see will just be completely green, really smooth leaves, and very large, which this will get very large as well if I give it time. But peace lilies are another plant that, if you are looking for just an upright plant, they will also bloom. So I have seen these in Lowe's a lot lately because it's springtime, blooming even in this really small versions, which is very precious, but they do have a bloom on them, so they will flower for you if they're happy. This one's clearly not happy because it hasn't bloomed for me yet, probably because I keep forgetting to water it because it's sitting in a corner of my TV, not getting great light. So just a testament to how this plant is still surviving in my care, and it probably will survive in your care as well. Another upright plant that you could get as a beginner are cacti. They're incredibly easy to care for. They don't mind lower light situations. Would they love high light? Absolutely. But they can stand to be in lower light situations. Let the soil dry completely out because they do store water, so they don't need as much. And yeah, they're just a fun plant. Now, the only bad part about these is they're extremely pokey. This is an echinopsis, and so you can like pet it. I did another video on this guy, but you can pet it. It's on its spines. But if you were to get a prickly pear or something like that, bunny ears, whatever, you don't want to do that. It is going to poke you and it will leave spines in your fingers. So just beware of that. But there are a ton of varieties of cacti, all different shapes and sizes. And yeah, they're very easy to care for plants. Another very easy to care for plant that I don't have, but I honestly would love to have it, is Dracaena, but specifically a marginata. I think that they're beautiful plants, extremely like fairy tale-like. If you have seen one, maybe I'll put a photo of it, but they just look like something straight out of Dr. Seuss. They're really beautiful plants, easy to care for, don't mind lower light situations, water once the soil dries completely out. They're upright plants, so they grow up like trees, and they can just be very beautiful and very architectural. It would be really cool as a statement houseplant piece if you were looking for something like that. Another easy to care for, or easier to care for now, tree. So when you get into the trees for houseplants, so like everybody wants an olive tree right now, or did, and it's a tree. So you have to remember that trees are going to require way more light and way more water, but they can be fairly easy to care for if you have both of those. And so what I would recommend if you're looking for a tree as a filler is the Ficus elastica. So that is not the fiddle leaf fig. Don't bother with that one. But I have had good experience with Ficus elastica, specifically the Taneki and the ruby and the, I don't know if it's like the melanin. I'm just going to call it the burgundy. It's the burgundy. It's sitting in my living room currently, and it's sitting in a southwest facing window, but it is extremely easy to care for. I have had mine in lower light situations, which lower light for those guys would be like an east facing window, like really close to an east facing window. But they are relatively easy to care for. I have found that mine do not mind to be dried out, like to dry completely out. I don't really pay attention to them much. I don't know. My Melanie, the Milani, but burgundy ficus that I have, elastica, in my living room grows constantly. It grew all winter. It's still growing, and it's just a very easy to care for plant. Now, again, this is not to say that it's the easiest plant to care for, because they do like light. They are trees. And so you are going to need more light than you would a snake plant or a heartleaf or a pothos plant, like I've stated earlier in this video. But as far as its category of trees, it is an easier to care for plant. Next, probably the last plant on my list as easy plants to care for, and actually this is in the trailing climbing section, the Hoya. So Hoya are extremely easy to care for. You can water them once their soil dries completely out, and they're just very beautiful plants. They come in a ton of varieties. There are some varieties that are harder to take care of than others. This is the Hoya Princess, and it has been an easy to care for plant. Now, it has not grown to its full potential by any means, because I don't have the correct light for it. So that's the only caveat for this. Hoya are going to require an extreme amount of light, just like your fiddle leaf figs. That's why I didn't recommend that one, but I'm going to recommend this because it can deal with lower light situations. But if you want it to grow to its full potential, you will need extreme light. So I would say a south or west facing window would be ideal, or if you don't have that, add a grow light to it. And so again, they come in a ton of varieties and variegations. This one, again, is the Crimson Princess. And so it has pink variegation on the inside and green on the outside. But you can see that this is just a lot of green, and only the new growth is pushing out the white and the pink. And that's because I just moved it to a grow light a couple months ago. And so now it's coming back to life and pushing out the variegation that it should be. I have very beautiful different varieties out there for these guys. So Hoya is another one. They are a little bit harder to come by in your big box store, but can be found primarily at your local nursery. Now, Lowe's, I have seen a few carry like the Crimson Princess or Bilboa. I don't know. It's like a new plant, new Hoya that people are spotting at Lowe's. I, again, don't try to collect Hoya because I don't have the correct light for them. But if you have a highlight situation, this would be a great plant for you. They trail and they can climb. And I did have a pubicalix at my last house in a southwest facing window, and it was climbing up the little macrame hanger that I had it on and was doing really great. So they are relatively easy to care for, great little plants for a beginner. Those are my easy to care for plants that I could recommend to anyone starting out collecting houseplants. Now, another one that I didn't mention but gets mentioned a lot is the Monstera deliciosa, which I have the Thai constellation sitting right here, and I have a deliciosa in my living room. Personally, I don't find those to be the easiest care for plants, especially in the smaller versions. I have killed many smaller Monstera deliciosas, and I don't know if that's because I am overthinking it and just thinking that they're super easy and you don't need to be on top of them. But in my experience, I have not had the best of luck caring for a Monstera deliciosa. Again, I have a larger one, not quite as large as my Thai constellation, but it is larger and it is easier to care for. So I would say if you are looking to get one of those, get one that's more established rather than the little small ones that don't have any fenestrations on the leaves and are more of just like a plain green, like Heartleaf, very immature version of the full version, whatever I'm saying here. But that one for me is a little iffy, but I know a lot of people recommend those as easy to care for houseplant for beginner plant people. Yes, that was my recommendations. Beginner houseplant collector. You want to get into them, or you just want a plant to fill the space and look pretty and add some character to a spot in your home. Those are the plants that I would recommend. There are a ton of other plants that I could recommend that are lower and easier to care for, but those are my go-tos. So let me know in the comments what plants you would recommend to beginner houseplant collectors. I would be really interested to see what everyone else thinks would make this category. I know that every houseplant collector has a different scale of what is easy and not. So I would be interested to hear from you what you think is another great recommendation for those just starting to collect. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and we will see you next time, hopefully with a better voice, because this is too much for me. So thank you so much for watching through this. We will see you next time.